We will spend a few minutes in this video understanding how to value a floating rate note. Now, at the beginning itself, let me tell you that a floating rate note, what we already know about it, is that at every coupon date, or let's call it a reset date, a date on which the reference rate of the floating rate note is set, at that date, the ex coupon price of a floating rate note, what we say, is reset to par. Okay, so if you place yourself on these coupon dates or reset dates, then your note, after having paid the coupon due on that day, would have a price which is equal to its face value. So let me tell you the result at the beginning itself. Now let's do this. Let's try and value this note right from first principles. So to value this note, let me first draw its diagram. So let's assume that I am standing as of time t equal to 0. This is the time at which this note has just been issued. And let me now draw its cash flows. At time t equal to 1, it will pay off some kind of a floating coupon. That's how I would draw a floating coupon. Then on date 2, again a floating coupon. On the last date, let that be date n, it will pay off its last floating coupon and it will return back to you the face value. Okay, so what is the mechanics of determining this floating coupon? The floating coupon, it depends on the LIBOR. Let's say the LIBOR is the reference rate that I'll be working with. It depends on the LIBOR that was observed at the start of the period, and it was useful in determining the amount that will be paid at the end of the period. Okay, so let's write it down. Let's assume that each of these periods is tau years long. Typically, if it's a 6-month note, this tau will be equal to 0.5. So this is the spacing for all these periods. Any given coupon, I will write it down as this one. For example, I will write it down as the LIBOR observed at time t equal to 0, this times the face value, this times tau. Okay, similarly this one will be L1, this times the face value, this times tau. The last one would be L observed at time n-1, this times the face value, this times tau. Okay, so what is then the value of this note at time t equal to 0? To determine this value, there is a problem. The problem is that apart from the first LIBOR, L0, I'm assuming I'm standing as of this date, apart from this first LIBOR, all other LIBORs are not known to me. They will only be revealed to me when I land on these respective dates. Okay, so what should I do? Let's do this. Let's work with an expected kind of LIBOR, a LIBOR which I kind of expect will prevail as of that future date. That LIBOR, I'll be assuming, is the forward rate for that future period that I can observe as of today. So let me write down a very simple formula for this value of this floating rate note as of today by discounting these cash flows to today using, let's say, the observed term structure of risk-free rates. Okay, now I have to make one more assumption here, and that will really simplify things, and that is I'll be assuming that the discounting, it happens at the same rate at which these coupons are determined. So my reference rate for determining the coupons and the rate which I use for discounting is the same. Only when you make that assumption would that rule of thumb which we mentioned at the beginning of the video, the rule that the value, the ex coupon value of a floating rate note on any of its reset dates is equal to its par value, that rule of thumb is only valid if the rate that you use to compute your coupons is the same rate at which you do your discounting. Okay, so let's write down the value now. I'll plainly just get some kind of an expected value of each of these cash flows, and I will discount all these cash flows to today. That's all I'll be doing. Okay. So let me do this for the ith period. Let me draw the diagram for the ith period. For the ith period, this guy is, let's say, the date I minus 1. This guy is I. Okay. And therefore, I would want to write down the cash flow here. This cash flow will be based on Li minus 1, this times the face value, this times tau. Okay. So if this is for the ith payment, let me discount it to today. What would I do? Let me use the expected value of this guy. This LIBOR I don't know as of today, so I'll be using its discount, its expected value. That times the face value, that times tau. I need to discount it to today. Let me write down the discount factor as df from 0, which is where I am standing right now, till time ti. Okay, because this payment happens at time ti. This is the expected value, sorry, this is the discounted value of this payment which happens at the end of period I. Okay, I can then therefore sum this guy over for all the periods. So from period 1 till period n. So this is the discounted value of all the coupons, plus there is a principal also sitting at the end, and that we can write it as face value, this times the discount factor from today till tn. As simple as that. Okay. Now let's try and simplify this. Now I told you that the expected value of the LIBOR at any date I should actually work with I minus 1. Okay. So this guy, I can actually set it to be equal to the forward rate which prevails between dates ti minus 1 to ti observed as of today. Okay. How would I get this forward? Very simple. You know this from fixed income chapters, that this forward rate I can get it using the discount factor till time ti and the discount factor till time ti minus 1. So I can write this guy down, I mean the equation which can get me this guy down, as 1 plus the expected LIBOR at time ti minus 1, this times the period tau. This should be equal to the discount factor from today till time ti minus 1, that divided by discount factor from today till time ti. Okay. So this way of writing down this formula, the one which should connect the forward rate with the two spot rates, is a much more generic way of doing it because it takes into account all kinds of compoundings. Okay. So if this is true, then it means that the expected value of the LIBOR should be, at that times tau, should be equal to df from 0 to ti minus 1, the whole thing divided by discount factor 0 to ti, this minus 1. I'm taking the 1 on that side. Let me now replace this in this formula. So what am I saying? I'm saying value at time t equal to 0 should be equal to the sum which goes from first period till the nth period. This times tau, I can write it as df from 0 to ti minus 1 divided by df from 0 to ti, this times the fv. So this and this goes away, this times the fv, this times the df from 0 to ti. Okay. Now I should put a bracket here. So this plus there is this fv term sitting here. So fv, this times df 0 to tn. Okay. Now actually there's a minus 1 here as well. So this will be minus 1. Okay. Now open up this bracket. When you open this up, it's now very simple now. So it goes from I is equal to 1 to n. If you open this bracket up, you would get df from 0 to ti minus 1, this times fv, this times this guy and this guy cancel, okay, and then therefore minus df 0 to ti minus 1 to ti, I'm sorry, the second term. So this will be df ti, I'm just multiplying with minus 1, this times fv, okay, plus fv times df from 0 to tn. So this is in the summation. So if I were to open this summation up one by one, start with I is equal to 1, so right till I is equal to n, what you will see is that alternate terms, they keep cancelling. So what you will be left with in the end will be equal to df from 0 to 0, that means t naught, which is as of today, that times fv minus the discount factor from 0 to tn, the last term, that times fv plus fv, that times df from 0 to tn. Okay, so this and this again cancels, and what you get in the end is that the value of this note, floating rate note, as of today is equal to its face value. That means this note is priced to par if I am standing as of today. So what assumptions did we make here? In this entire derivation that we did, the assumption that we made at the heart of this derivation was this. It was that the expected value of the LIBOR was equal to the forward rate that you can imply from the term structure as it exists as of today. Okay, that was my first assumption. My second assumption was the discount factors which entered into determining this LIBOR was the same discount factor which I used for discounting the payments also. Now let's do this. Let's try and see what if I am standing in the middle of a period. What happens? So to understand that, let me draw another diagram. I am assuming actually let's place ourselves in any period now. This is, let's say, ti minus 1. This is ti. I am standing at time t, which is in the middle of the period. So this is the next coupon. The next coupon I know would be Li minus 1, this times tau, this times Fv, okay? And there are other coupons in the future dates also. Now let me do this. Let me assume that the value of all these future coupons in all the future dates would be equal to the par value when I arrive at this date and this coupon has already been paid out. Okay, so therefore if I were to position myself on this date, then I know that the value of all these remaining coupons beyond this date ti, I can actually replace the value of all these coupons by the face value. Okay, this is based on the result that we have already derived. Now if that is true, then let me bring myself back at time t. Therefore, looking at this note from time t, it would appear to me as 1, which pays me the promised coupon, which is Li minus 1, no longer unknown. It's already fixed at time ti minus 1. This times tau, this times Fv, and there is a big guy Fv standing here as well, the value of all the remaining coupons after date ti. So therefore at this stage it just tells me that the value of this floating rate note at time t very simply is then equal to discount factor to bring it from ti to t, this times the promised amount, and that is Fv plus Fv, that times Li minus 1, this times tau. This Li minus 1 is already known to you. Okay, so this is the value of my note if I am not standing on any coupon / reset date. So what it tells me is that once I fix this LIBOR, which will determine my next coupon. I pay off the coupon which was due on this day. After this point in time, the FRN, it basically becomes a zero coupon bond with this as its, let's say, face value. Okay. So if this were to be the case, this is about the valuation of this bond. A quick note about the duration of this bond. The duration, therefore, at any coupon date or any reset date, when the value of this bond X coupon I know is equal to FV, then at this point in time you would say the duration of this bond becomes equal to 0. Okay, and I'm assuming this is a point in time when the reset has not really happened. It's a point in time when I have just arrived at that date. Okay, as soon as you were to do the reset, that means I were to set the LIBOR that will determine my next coupon, I know that the value of the bond, it becomes this guy. So when the value becomes this, a zero coupon bond, now you are indeed introducing sensitivity to movements in interest rate. Interest rates have been fixed as far as the next coupon determination is concerned, but interest rates are still variable as far as the discounting is concerned. And therefore you will have duration. Okay, and that duration will be the duration of a zero coupon bond whose remaining life actually is from that time t till the next coupon date. Okay, so in that sense it's a very short duration zero coupon bond. So therefore, if you were to take a look at the profile of this duration, I am saying that the moment you arrive at a coupon date, when the next reset hasn't happened, the duration would have gone down to 0. Then when the reset for the next coupon date happens, the duration becomes equal to, let's say, tau. Okay, and then it again drops down to 0 when you reach the next coupon date ti. Okay, so this is a concept of duration of this bond, of a floating rate bond, that I will require when we talk about duration of a swap. Okay, so this short video was about the valuation and the duration of a floating rate note.